Hey guys, how's everybody doing? I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas upcoming or Happy Holidays. It's going to be just a short video because I've got some presents to wrap. But yeah, I wanted to introduce you guys to a sort of a new spin on humans I've been looking at. Currently Mythic rank 278. And this is a deck that I call Go Tall. It is basically a Selesnya humans deck with the addition of Bunnicorn, and then so I've got Bunnicorn and Hamlet Vanguard, which are the kind of go tall aspect of the deck. But I've really been enjoying this deck. It's been a lot of fun, and just to kind of go over sort of the main strategy, it's pretty straightforward. It's sort of like a standard humans deck where you're just trying to get into the red zone and be aggressive. It does have some built-in elements against control to really sort of buy you some time to really like lay the beat down. You've got 3 copies of Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, just to make all their spells more expensive. And then the real MVP of the deck has been Invasion of Gobakhan. So this is something that I think hasn't really had a lot of play in quite some time, but it really, really works to slow down board wipes specifically and just kind of buy you that extra time that you need just to be able to get the damage in, since we don't have any haste creatures in this version. So with Invasion of Gobakhan, basically you look at their hand, find a card and exile it, and then it costs them 2 additional mana to cast that. And then when you flip Invasion of Gobakhan, you get the Light Shield Array. So it takes 3 points of damage to flip this. And then the Light Shield Array will begin at the end of your, or at the beginning of your end step. You'll put a +1/+1 counter on every creature that attacked this turn. And then you can sacrifice the enchantment to give all of your creatures hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So this also like helps protect you as insurance against several of the different board wipes that are out there that don't exile, like Sunfall. So very powerful card in this deck with a lot of creatures that just turn sideways. Rounding out the deck, I wanted to have a large number of 1-drops to really set up a good chance to flip this invasion. So I've got all the usual suspects, 4 copies of Hopeful Initiate, and in this specific deck, Hopeful Initiate is way more powerful than it normally is. Normally a great answer here to Selesnya enchantments, but it gets kind of an extra punch of power in this deck because you have all these counters coming on your guys from Invasion of Gobakhan once you flipped it, and you also have these huge reservoirs that you find in Hamlet Vanguard that you can just pull counters off the Vanguard to blow up multiple enchantments or artifacts, and it's really, really powerful. So anyways, we've got the Hopeful Initiate. We'll get back to the Vanguard in a second. We have 4 copies of Lunarch Veteran just to make sure we're gaining enough life to stem the bleeding against mono red aggro. We've got 4 copies of Recruitment Officer, again to get that late game advantage and the early beatdown, and 4 copies of Ward in the Inner Sky. Another great way to make some +1/+1 counters, which Hopeful Initiate can use, and also put it into the air to help give you another way sort of to attack the enemy. For your 2-drops, we've got, again, 3 copies of Thalia, which are really important insurance against board wipes. 4 copies of Resolute Reinforcements, since we want to maximize kind of our number of creatures so we can then have really big and effective Knight Errant of Eos. And then 4 copies of Regal Bunnicorn, just with all these creatures. These things are just going to be huge, like 6/6, 7/7, 8/8s. And 4 copies of Invasion of Gobakhan, which we kind of just talked about. And then in the top of the curve, we have 4 copies of Hamlet Vanguard, which is a 3-drop, which comes in as a 1/1 with Ward 2, and it gets 2 +1/+1 counters on it for every other non-token human that you control. And so, I've had plenty of games where this comes in as like a 9/9, an 11/11, a 13/13. This card is just massive, and the Ward 2 really helps kind of give you that extra edge against spot removal. So it's a really nice just brick wall to mono red, a great way to deal with a lot of different enchantments and Selesnya enchantments, hard to target, and just all around really useful card for this deck. And then we've got 4 copies of the Knight Errant of Eos, which will find whatever tool you happen to be missing. So really helpful in just giving this deck sort of a toolbox ability to just find whatever you need. I did create a sideboard here for the deck as well, so you do have some options if you want to go like best of 3. In the sideboard, we have an extra copy of Thalia. We have 3 copies of Anointed Peacekeeper, which you can bring in against control to push out those Sunfalls even later. And then 4 copies of Brutal Cathar in those matchups where you really just need that creature removal. We do also have, I think, 1 copy of Unlicensed Hearse, which can help like target Memory Deluge in like the blue-white matchup, or any kind of graveyard strategies where they're trying to like bring back Atraxa. And then we have 1 copy of Knockout Blow, specifically for mono red. The reason I think I only have 1 copy is because this deck does run Cavern of Souls and Secluded Courtyard, so it's a little harder to get that natural white mana. In addition, I have 1 copy of Pithing Needle, which would come in against like Jace for like the mill deck, or certain walkers if you want to bring it in against other kind of like Super Friends decks there. I do have 4 copies of Phyrexian Missionary, and I thought a lot about like what slot do I want to have for my life gain. You could also opt to go for I'm blanking on the name, but let the 3 mana angel that you can either play for 3 or 6 mana that can give lifelink and throw that around. So that's another option you could go for. Here I just wanted the kind of sticky body at a 2/3 and come in as a 2-drop just as fast as possible, just to stop and buy you time to kind of go larger than mono red. The nice thing here is that the kicker you actually can cast with your Cavern of Souls or your Secluded Courtyard, so you do have the ability to actually get this additional benefit later in the game. So I think this will actually be pretty helpful against mono red. Back to the deck itself here for the mana base. You do have 21 lands, so you have 21 sources that are capable of making white, and you do have 17 sources for green. So I do have only 2 copies of the Secluded Courtyard instead of the full playset. Part of the reason here is because I do want to have access to natural white mana on turn 2 for either Invasion of Gobakhan or for Regal Bunnicorn if I've named human on the Cavern of Souls or Secluded Courtyard. Other than that, we've got 3 copies of Mirrex to help give us some advantage against control late game. The Razorverge Thickets, I think, is what pushed me into a build here with Selesnya, as opposed to going like Boros. But you certainly could adapt this deck to go Boros instead. In that place, you would just cut the Vanguards and replace them with 4 copies of Imidane's Recruiter to give it a very, very quick way to just end the game. If you wanted to go like mono white instead, I would probably, in the main board, cut the Vanguards here and then just replace them with some combination of Adeline and Brutal Cathar. Part of the reason that I'm not running Adeline here in this build, again, is just because I want to try out Vanguard. It is very strong in this particular build. Certainly you could run it, but I think at that point you might as well just go for the mono white version. So that being said, let's hop into a couple quick games. What I really like most about this deck is that it really gives you actual identifiable tools against board wipes. You've got 7 cards main deck between your Thalia and your Invasion of Gobakhan to kind of fight against that and actually have a chance. So I really do like that. Here I'm going to lead out with the Recruitment Officer just because I'm going to try to maybe flip this invasion here. And ideally, for the timing of your invasion against decks that do have board wipes, red, white, or black typically, you're going to be looking at casting your invasion on turn 3 if you're on the play, so that you can do it in time before they're able to get off their like temporary lockdown or something else. So that's kind of the timing of it that I would recommend. If you're on the draw, you might have to play it on turn 2 to prevent them from doing that, but just kind of a general guideline. Here I'm probably going to run out with Thalia. We'll do the attack first. I want to get some creatures down. I could also drop 2 Wardens here. That would be another fine play. But I think there will be some benefit to get the Thalia going. Okay, so this does mean that we would have to spend 3 mana to get the invasion going this turn, which is, I guess, the downside of Thalia, had I gone with a double Warden play instead. We can attack through this Tenacious Underdog, though, to start working on it, and I think that is worth considering. So I also just kind of like the idea of looking upstairs and seeing what we're working with. So I think I will lay the invasion this turn. Okay, so they've got Liliana on 3. They do have Cut Down. Yeah, and I think Liliana, but I mean, Liliana will cost them 4 mana to play, just because we already have a Thalia going. So maybe what we want to do here is we could slow down their Cut Down even further, just to make it harder for them to remove stuff. Archfiend is going to be annoying if they play it on 4, so will Shieldred. So I think maybe just getting rid of the Cut Down and slowing them down a little bit might help us kind of curve out a little bit more. And then here, I'm happy if they do want to trade their 3-2 for our 2-1. I think we're okay with that, given that they don't have 4 mana. I could just push with 1, but I think there is some merit in making that trade. The only reason that we maybe wouldn't want to is they do have Liliana, so maybe it's better to just only push with Thalia here, because they probably do want to make that trade. They probably don't want us to flip this here. Okay, and they did draw Life of Toshiro, which is super good for them. That's going to be really, really nasty. So here, because we know we're going to lose our officer, we're going to try to flip the invasion. I think that most likely they are going to block here, but I think it's kind of the only choice we can make at this point. Yeah, so they're happy to make that trade. Here we're just going to lay out our hand. I guess we could just go double Warden. That would kind of get around them being able to get the extra value off Life of Toshiro. So maybe we should just do that. They'll be able to Liliana one of them, or they could just, if they have the swamp, lay maybe Archfiend or something else. But yeah, so I think here it does make sense to not give them a free kill on the Thalia here and just kind of end it. Yeah, so they are going to go for the Liliana play. Make us sack one of our Wardens. Oh, they're going to go for the discard. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, so I guess knowing that maybe would have been better, but we would have just lost it here to the Toshiro anyways, so I think this worked out okay. So now we'll go ahead and finish off the invasion and start working on Liliana a little bit. And I think here, since we don't really need 5 mana, we could just hold this card, hoping that they will try to go for the discard, not worrying if we discard this. So I'll leave that as an option for them. So I'd certainly rather lose the card than have them take out one of our Wardens. Okay, looks like they do have the cut down. So this is kind of one of those unfortunate situations. If we sack the Light Shield Array, then they're going to be able to just block and we won't be able to grow our guy anymore. But I think that keeping our guy around is a little better than the Light Shield Array, since it's hard to say, I guess. if we drew into... Yeah, I don't think there was anything we could really draw into that would help us push through this. So this is a tough one. Yeah, maybe we let this go. We're going to try letting this go and see what we can draw into. Now we want to play out our land, since they are definitely going to be using this to discard. Here, same situation. I think we're just going to let the Hopeful Initiate go. Okay, we've got a very small bunny here. So we'll give them the choice if they want to just sack Liliana to get rid of the bunny. But yeah, this is looking pretty rough situation here for us, kind of spiraling out of control. So I think, unfortunately, this is going to be over pretty quick. Yeah, and we're facing lethal here. We've got a block. We're going to take 2 anyways, just for losing our creature, so I think we have to block like that. And then I think we just die on our upkeep. So yeah, that's going to do it, unfortunately. We could have sacked our creature to keep him around. I suppose actually that might have been a little bit better. I think it's going to be largely irrelevant, though. And then I'm going to see if I can do one more quick game. And just try to show you a little bit more of the deck. And again, you know, you can certainly adapt this to be mono white for humans, and just like with the Bunnicorn to kind of go a little bit larger, or swing in there with Boros instead and use Imidane's Recruiter. Okay, hand's not going to quite do it. I need a little bit more land. This looks great. And I think here we're happy to throw a land back, probably the Mirrex. Just so we've got steady mana. And we'll lead out here with a Warden because we can go turn 2 reinforcements and give it a token. Or give it a counter. Gonna hold the Cavern of Souls just in case they want to hold up mana for counter spells, then we can just kind of surprise him here with the Cavern. So I guess like Veteran is kind of a free play here, since next turn we're just going to go Knight Errant, and so we might as well draw it there, and then we can kind of do it for the full 5. That'll be kind of fun. Now, if they have like temporary lockdown, that is certainly going to be rough. We could choose to just do it for 3 instead, and then keep these in the hand so we don't expose ourselves. But then we're going to miss on any Knight Errants that we might see from the Convoke. So, a little bit of a tough choice. I think against, like, because we know there's going to be board wipes coming here, I think it's a little safer just to do it for 3. So we're going to try that instead. So we could have scried the veteran, I suppose, to the bottom if we were like hoping for something a little bit better against control, like Invasion or maybe Thalia. But at least it's a creature, so that's nice. Okay, here we'll be happy to pick up, get another Warden. I kind of like the Recruitment Officer to like start rebuilding and have that as like a plan. So again, I don't think I'm going to lay anything else out down onto the field just because we have a decent board going already. And then we're just going to wait and see what they do. So this way, if they like temporary lockdown, they get our small creatures, but not the Knight Errant. So they're going to need like a depopulate or a full Sunfall to take care of this. Okay, here, certainly happy to take out the Jace. I think we can... Question is, do we like really push here? I'm a little bit concerned because they do run a lot of board wipes. So I think that there's a decent reason for us to just try to push a little bit face here and just kind of hold our stuff. It'd be nice if we had like a Mirix or something like that so we could get some kind of value. But I think here we want to just go ahead and stay tight just so we're ready for the next board wipe, since we don't have a way to stop it. So we'll send this at Jace and then everything else at face, and just start working their life total. Yeah, it hurts not to be able to play like this big boom boom, but we don't have full information, and I want to play really conservatively. Yeah, there's the Vanquish the Horde, so they were just waiting. So now we can try to refill. Yeah, life total is not like super important. So this is a little bit of like a weaker card to put forth. But I think maybe like going like Veteran plus Initiate and then like end of turn reinforcement feels pretty good. Then we've still got Officer in our hand. So in case they just like wipe us again, we'll have a way to refill. And then here I'm going to go ahead and use the Courtyard just so we have a for sure reinforcements end of turn. This way they don't just get like the easy, you know, second board wipe. Okay, so they're probably sitting on like Wandering Emperor or something like that. But I think it is maybe okay for us to extend a little bit here. It is arguable whether or not to reinforcements. Like maybe it would have been better to just kind of hold, but kind of depends like what we draw also. And this is like a decent board. I could see dropping a Vanguard here, but again, I don't have full knowledge. I have a lot of cards in hand. I think I want to, like if we knew that they didn't have like a board wipe, I would play this now so we could have it be a little bit larger in case they have like Wandering Emperor here and get rid of one of our guys. But I think it's okay. We just kind of push and just try to get some damage in and see what they do. We could also just like wait, but I think waiting is dangerous because then they could just Memory Deluge. And we don't want to take the pressure off. Okay, so there's the Wandering Emperor that we pretty much knew they had. They get to take out our Initiate, which is kind of annoying. But we do push a little bit of damage here. And now I think we maybe will need this Vanguard to kind of break through. So I think now they've committed a little bit. Maybe we commit a little bit. Again, like they haven't committed much because the Wandering Emperor is still going to be there. But I think we need something to break through, so I'm going to go ahead and put the Vanguard out. This will show up as a 5/5, which should be able to break through most of their stuff. And then I'm going to hold the Officer here just so we can rebuild if they board wipe again. Okay, they've got Revelry, so either they're just like trying to draw it out and just fight over this board for a little bit, or they don't have the board wipe. The fact that they played the Aganjo makes me wonder if they have another one. So yeah, here I think we're just gonna try to push on their Emperor, because their Emperor is gonna be a real problem. And they do get to make some good trades here. But I think that's okay. Okay, it looks like they do have to get lost. So now there's kind of no profitable attacks, at least not yet. And here, since they've committed some more removal, makes me think that they don't have a board wipe. And so now I think it's safe to maybe go Officer and start trying to get some card advantage and start working end of turn. Looks like they are a bit more committed to this board. We could choose to block here and kind of get our veteran going in the air, but if they have like another board wipe like Vanquish the Horde, then we want to have the chance to like replay it on the backside if they just board wipe. But yeah, until they get rid of this Recruitment Officer, we'll just start trying to draw 2 cards a turn for a little while and build up our hand again. We'd have to be a little bit careful though, because this Wandering Emperor can certainly take over the game if we let it. Okay, that was a nice series of draws. So I don't know that we commit all of this, but we certainly could commit some of it. I think that we would take a turn off from using our Officer, but I think we do want to start being able to pressure here to start pushing through. So I think maybe we hold the Bunicorn and just go for these 2, because this is going to come in a little bit bigger as a result, but that will be a lot of guys on the board. This would come in as a 7/7, which is pretty threatening. So maybe we hold these 2 back and just kind of play it safe. I could see that. This way we can spend the mana here trying to grow things a little bit. So I think we just do want to build this Vanguard a little bit larger, just because these other cards are going to have trouble breaking through their 1 token here. If they have another piece of spot removal, we'll have to look at deploying the Bunicorn. And we're going to use this turn to kind of get this going, because we want to make sure we have enough. And we'll go ahead and leave that on top. That looks good. So we want to really get our mana going so we can start using this Officer. Okay, they do have another piece of removal, but in a way this is good because they're committing more to the board. So for every piece of removal, like, just makes it less likely they're going to board wipe. And now we have enough mana so we can go like Bunicorn next turn plus Search with Officer. even though we could trade here, I think we just take the 6 because we want the Bunicorn to be nice and large. And we're at a high enough life total that we can take the hit. So now we're just going to pass and see if we can keep digging. They've got the partitions. They're going to hit us for a little bit more damage here, but I think we can weather the hit for another turn. And ideally we want to try to find like a Warden of the Inner Sky to start like fighting in the air. So we are just going to go ahead and absorb this 7. Again, we could block here with Lunarch Veteran. That is certainly a possibility. Maybe we should. I think I'm going to hold to it for just another turn. But that would be a way to start like dealing with their Emperor via like our flying token. So that's definitely something you could do. Okay, there's a Warden, which is perfect. So now we can go ahead and start taking it to the air. And we've got a Knight Errant of Eos to also help things kind of get moving. So that I think will be nice because it will potentially stem the bleeding a little bit. So here I think we definitely want to get our Warden going. We can do that. Unless they have a dedicated counterspell here, I think we want to use this early one. Actually, I guess we're only going to cast 2 humans this turn. Maybe we'll hold the initiates. And so we don't like put the entire board out there. So I think, well, I guess you could cast this with a Cavern of Souls. And I guess, yeah, the order here, maybe we should have cast the Bunicorn first because then we'd have 2 mana up in case they had like a Make Disappear or something like that. But I do think I want the Bunicorn back. Just so we can kind of prevent some of this stuff from careening into our life total. And now we've got a couple choices. So we could go Knight Errant and try to refill. We can also do that after a board wipe, so it's not as pressing. But like, what would we find? We would try to go get probably maybe more like Veterans or like another like Hamlet Vanguard to really kind of cinch it down. I think that I actually do want to spend this time maybe just trying to get the Warden going. So I think instead of doing the Knight Errant now, I'm actually just going to go ahead and see if I can get this Warden prepped. And Invasion is perfect. We get to like look upstairs next turn. Very excited about that. And part of the reason I'm leaving the Lunarch Veteran up is that now we actually probably could block with this. And get the flying version of it. We're at low enough life that we could start accepting some blocks. Okay, so they know we wanted a card on top, which is why they're Quite intelligently deploying Jace to get rid of our top card. Makes sense. Unless they've just got the actual kill here. We're at 22 cards in library, so we're close, but they don't have it quite yet. Unless they've got 3 Jaces. Maybe part of the reason there also is that they wanted to make sure that we couldn't kill their Jace with like our Warden or something like that. So here, this is kind of interesting. We can play Lunarch Veteran. We could also Ganja one of their 4/4s just by sending in some of our troops. So we could like attack Bunicorn here, and they could set up some sort of crazy block, and we could blow them out with Ganjo. We'd have to play some more creatures to get going with Warden of the Inner Sky 2 more times. So I think maybe the play here, because I want to like possibly use this Ganjo. Let's see. Actually, if we would like, Hopeful Initiate plus Veteran would get us there. So that is worth noting. But then we wouldn't have enough. Actually, we would still have enough here for... Yeah, so maybe we'll do it this way. Okay, so first we'll play our Phantom. And then we'll play 1 Initiate, leaving enough up for Iganjo. Since we're at 22 cards or 21 now, we're kind of running a little bit out of time. So we can go ahead and start working on trying to end the game. Okay, Warden is a nice card on top. And so now, even if they do have another Wandering Emperor, we can still at least take this one out. We can attack here with Bunicorn, but they get to push for a lot. So I'm thinking it's actually a bit safer to do this over 2 turns, even though we do have the Iganjo. I guess it just... Like, if they have another Emperor here, they could just take out our Bunicorn and then bash back for 1 billion. So I think maybe we do play it a little safe here and just kind of slow it down. They have a board wipe, it's super rough, but we kind of had to extend a little bit to get this going. Yeah, and there's the Sunfall, unfortunately. So very happy that we've got our Initiate here in hand so that we can try to deal with this Incubator token, potentially. Yeah, we definitely knew it was a possibility that they had that. Okay, so now we can go Warden. Now we'll just put everything out there. And into Initiate with 4 mana up. I guess we could have just Cavern Souls, because yeah, we've got 2 of them. And then we can go ahead and get this going. Oh, you know what? I auto-tapped there for 1. I should have Convoked. That was a mistake. Yeah, that was an error. And we would have gotten a Thalia off of it, so... Yeah, auto-tapper error there, unfortunately. definitely kind of get complacent and just sort of like fall into the auto tapper. So they could just try to end the game with their 13-13, but looks like they had Farewell also. So yeah, they're just firing on all cylinders. And I don't think we can chump for a turn here, but this is pretty much, I think we're just dead at this point. Yeah, I don't think there's any sequence of plays here that would get us through this. Or draws. Well, Knight Errant of Eos would have helped a little bit, but yeah, I think this is that's gonna do it. Could prolong it another turn, but I think it's just, it's done at this point. So anyways, thanks guys for watching. Unfortunately, we didn't have a great performance here for this particular game, but this is a fun deck, and I do like the slant with the Invasion of Gobakhan. Let's take a quick peek here at how this deck has been doing. There's been multiple versions of it, so it's not going to be a perfect snapshot, but we'll see. Okay, so this one, the win rate has been very mediocre. It's currently at 54%, so 22 wins, 19 losses, a little more than even. How it breaks down matchup-wise, looking like mono red is quite positive. It's very good at beating mono red, 8-3. Positive matchup against blue white, even though that game we didn't happen to win. And then domain is a little tough. Or in some of the previous iterations, I just recently added the 4 copies of Invasion of Gobakhan, so I think that is going to change things quite a bit. But yeah, some of the more like control-y board wipey matchups have not gone well, and those are all before I added this invasion. So it's possible that will help the deck, but I think it's kind of a fun spin on humans. If you like it, or if you enjoyed my video or content, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. But hope you guys have a great Christmas and holiday season, and we'll see you next time.